Hello everyone, this is the Professor Z, and today we are back for another Made in Abyss Season 2 episode review. And today's episode contains what has quickly become one of my favorite moments in anime, but I will gush about that soon. So let's not waste any more time and jump into episode 9, titled The Return. We start as Reg carries Faputa's arm and, well, the rest of her towards the village. Snacking on the bugs that are gathering around her wound, Faputa doesn't seem bothered by her sudden lack of limb. The reason Faputa gives for this is that she's immortal, most likely like Midi was while having a body like Nanachi. We then get some time with Faputa just being the best as she is pet by Reg. Unfortunately, Gaborone, that was his name. You'd think they'd bring that up sooner. Anyway, Gaborone interrupts them to warn Faputa that her blood is driving the surrounding beasts crazy. Luckily for them though, Gaborone has got them covered, allowing them to proceed to the village unopposed. We then see that Riko and a handful of Narahede are waiting for Reg and Faputa's arrival. Though Riko is excited to see Reg, she is quickly confused by the arm he is carrying. Reg would like to explain, but it would have to wait until they got into the village, so it doesn't attract any beasts. After Reg enters the village, Riko gets her first look at Faputa, but is called in by Reg before she can say anything. Faputa, however, was looking at Prushka, complimenting their new appearance, meaning that it was Faputa who took Prushka at the beginning of this adventure. After entering the village, Waiko sees that Reg had brought a piece of Faputa, and worries if that'll be alright, since Faputa isn't supposed to enter the village. We get this cute moment here as Pakuyan shyly glances at Waiko. As I stated in my episode 7 review, these two were once in a relationship. Sadly, and understandably, the moment which indicates this was cut in the anime, so this moment isn't as impactful, but it's still cute. What Waiko feared would happen comes to pass though as the village begins to freak out at Faputa's presence. At this point, Reg isn't sure what to do. The first thing that comes to mind is to bring the arm to where Nanachi is. However, Waiko warns that doing so might drive Bailiff over the edge, which could have dangerous repercussions. Waiko then asks how Reg got the arm in the first place, and it's here where we learn about the promise between Faputa and Reg. Now we know that Faputa wants to destroy the village in order to free her mother, but she cannot enter the village. That's where Reg comes in. Faputa wants Reg to use his incinerator and make a way in for her. Now, this isn't what the promise is specifically, it's what Faputa wants Reg to do. From what Faputa says, it seems that Reg had told her about the incinerator, but didn't help her because of his ongoing objective. What Reg said according to Faputa is that when he returns, he would take Faputa with him. Now what actually occurred between the two of them has yet to be disclosed in the anime, so we'll have to wait for the true answer. Wazukian then approaches, stating that Reg was the prince all along, meaning that he knew that Faputa once came into contact with someone she got extremely close to. More importantly though, Wazukian has finally noticed Waiko, though he doesn't seem upset by the fact that she's escaped. Instead, he asks if Waiko had told them their story yet. She has, and very importantly specifies that it was from her perspective, since it would be clearly biased compared to the story being told by other members of the Suicide Corps. Wazukian then asks Riko that since she's heard the story, if she hates him now. And her response is quite shocking. She doesn't hate Wazukian because it was based on the story of one person. Instead, she claims to not know him well enough for that kind of judgment. Riko does, however, love the village, and those who call it home, because they were all once on the same journey she is on now. Wazukian then remembers the words of Bone Druid, who remember once traveled to the village that even among cave raiders, those who make it to the 6th layer are very rare. Riko is just like those who reside within the village, those who sought out their hopes within the darkness, but sadly the people here can no longer continue their search. Mugi chimes in, commenting about how despite finding plenty of value within the village, the dream of challenging the abyss once more still lives within her. Riko then realizes something. From what she knows about Wazukian, it's clear that he's not one to give up on his dreams so easily. So if he truly sought the Golden City, then why did he stop at the 6th layer's entrance? Why is he pretending to have given up when that's clearly not within his nature? And Riko hits it right on the head, the first to realize it in almost 150 years since the village's creation. Wait, 150 years? Dear lord, you're old! However, just like the other residents, Wazukian can't leave the village. But then, Riko comes to quite the conclusion. In order to continue his adventure, Wazukian planned to have Riko use the cradle in order to free everyone from the village's influence. What's surprising is that Wazukian makes no effort to deny her. Mugi chimes back in and expresses her dream of returning to the Abyss, but it's also unfair for Wazukian to make such a decision for everyone. Except it isn't Wazukian making that decision, it's Riko. Suddenly, the ground begins to shake and Juro comes crashing in. Vueko tries to tell Reg that Juro is after the piece of Fapta, but is taken away by Wazukian. Reg, heeding Vueko's words, makes some distance between himself and the others. This succeeds in drawing Juro's attention when it suddenly begins to absorb the ooze of the balancing. Cutting over to Vueko and Wazukian, we learn that Juro is the name shared by Vueko's piece of shit adoptive father, and it's no coincidence. Juro was created by the village based off of Vueko's signals, and thus is unbound by the laws of the village. Instead, it's more like a moving piece of it. Thus, by using the balancing, Juro begins to coat the surrounding area in it, restricting the group's movements. Reg begins to think about using the balancing against Juro, but Vueko, for the first time in her life, raises her voice to warn Reg that it won't work. Though it doesn't really matter as everyone quickly finds themselves overwhelmed by the balancing. Reg now finds himself in a difficult position. Does he fire the incinerator, thus dooming the village, or refrain and save the place Riko loves? In all honesty, this is a trick question because if Reg doesn't fire the incinerator, they all die anyway. So, in an absolutely beautiful shot, Reg blows a hole through both Juro and the village's wall. Hurrying over to Riko, Reg requests the assistance of Mugi and the others to keep Riko safe till he awakes. And finally, we get one of my favorite moments from this series. As a choir sings in the background, Faputa arrives. Oh my gosh, this is so good. Juro attempts to attack, but is blown away by Gabaron's hand cannon. We then get an amazing speech from Faputa as she shows how much she truly hates all those who have flourished through her mother's pain. Juro, having not had enough, attempts to balance Faputa, but since Faputa and the souls of the balancing are one and the same, it instead heals Faputa through her absorbing them. Now at full strength, Faputa is ready to begin her massacre. Finally, we return to Nanachi as she awakes from a deep slumber. Now what happens here is a little strange, so let me explain. Bailiff used a special incense in order to tell Nanachi the story of the suicide corpse from Bailiff's perspective. However, this dream is over, and this is where the episode comes to an end. So this episode was filled with some amazing moments, and I dare say the best moments of this anime season. Of course, there were some great story moments as well, which overall made this a phenomenal episode. But of course, what did you all think? Let me know down in the comments below. Leave a like and subscribe to support the channel, and as always everyone, this has been the Professor Z, and I will see you all next time.